Without further ado, I say hello and good afternoon, Peter, and thank you for joining the programme. Right, Peter, tell us a little about yourself before we move on to this new and exciting book.
I'm 59 years old, live with my partner Heather in Birchington-on-Sea in Kent.
Right.
I've done lots of jobs over the years. I've only really been writing or professionally about 3 or 4 years, but before that I was a doorman at Margate Winter Gardens.
Oh, right.
I've been a scaffolder, I've run a greengrocers, I was a life model for years. I've done absolutely everything, really. So,
Your name ought to be Jack then, didn't it? Jack of all trades.
Exactly.
And you've come up being an author. Right, Peter, I'm curious as to what prompted you to write this book about one of what I would say, back in the 60s, 70s, everyone's favourite TV programme, Top of the Pops, The Lost Years. Just how difficult was it?
Well, I've written a few books before this, and I've sort of slowly built myself up. This is actually my 10th book, and in 3.5 years. And 6 of them I wrote during the last 2 years, like COVID. Really sort of made me up my game, like so many people. Nothing else to do, really. So, but I've been thinking about Top of the Pops for a long time, but I wanted to be quite special. So I started writing to various performers who appeared on the show. And once I got a few contributions for them, and it all came together. I suppose over about nine months a year. Yeah.
That was good. Peter, how many episodes survived, and who raised the hue and cry about the missing episodes and formed the plan to collect them?
Well, my book covers up to 1975, and it was only from about April 76 that they really started saving them regularly. From that era, 50, 60 out of the back of my book, remind myself.
Oh, it's all right. I've got the book here. I think it's fantastic.
Out of 600 odd episodes, only about 40 or 50 survive. Only 5 from the 60s, from the first 6 years. So, it's unbelievable.
So when we see Top of the Pops on the other channels, sometimes on the television, where do these episodes come from? Have they been retrieved from someone?
There was a guy named Bob Pratt who was a BBC engineer, and he worked here. He died a couple of years ago, unfortunately.
Right.
But he was a BBC engineer, worked at the BBC during the late 60s and early 70s. And he used to, he wasn't supposed to, he could have been sacked, but he used to record or keep copies of these certain things, just certain things he particularly liked, certain artists. He had a few favourites. And then he'd literally hide them, at the back of cupboards, in airing ducts, absolutely everything. And then and whenever you watch Sounds of the 60s, Top of the Pops 2 or whatever, the vast majority of those up until the early 70s, 71, 72, come from Bob Pratt. It was Bob Pratt who saved all these.
Wow, here's the guy on the front page, page 2, that you've dedicated, page 2 in the book.
That's right,
Video engineer, BBC video engineer.
That's it, yeah.
And he is that naughty guy that went in early in the morning and he got copies and then he hid them.
Yeah, exactly that.
Because he could have got the sack, couldn't he?
Well, exactly. But he realised at the time these were important. Yeah, I mean, it was thanks to him. There's a famous, not just Top of the Pops, but there's a famous appearance by the Jimi Hendrix Experience on the Lulu show.
Right.
Where they Cream had recently split up, and they went, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience was supposed to do a duet of Hey Joe or something like that with Lulu, but it was going out live, and instead they went into a jam of Sunshine of Your Love, the Cream song, and after that Jimi Hendrix was banned. He was never allowed on the BBC again, believe it or not. But Bob Pratt knew that was important and saved this, and it's only thanks to him, footage like this survives. It's unbelievable.
Right, and you've got lots of black and white photographs that you've used throughout the book, and they are fantastic. Did they come from the resident photographer, Harry Goodwin? Where did you get them from?
No, the vast majority are simply screenshots of surviving footage. No, literally, I made video shots and then adjusted them in Photoshop. I made them brighter, cropped them. But that's all they are, really.
Wow, that's pretty clever. That's pretty clever.
Yeah, there is a couple. Steve Ellis of Love Affair gave me a lovely photo of Love Affair rehearsing, and that was by Harry Goodwin. That's in the book, and there's a couple of other things, but mostly they're screenshots.
And did the BBC help you in any way? And did you have to obtain their permission to write the book?
I didn't, so I hope I'm not going to suddenly get into trouble. But no, No, usually with the odd screenshot there and here and there, they're under fair use laws, So as long as I'm not, it's not like they're copyrighted photos. They're just parts of reviews. So I don't think there'd be a problem. I've used it in other books from American TV shows and whatever. I've never got in trouble. So I don't think.
When the show started, Peter, it wasn't recorded in a BBC studio. Why was this? Did the producers think it wouldn't catch on? Because I do believe it was filmed in a funny old church hall in Manchester. Am I right?
Yeah, a disused church in Manchester for the first 2.5 years of the show. Yeah, I've no idea why. I've no idea why, but perhaps it could have been, to be honest. This was during the age, when the Liverpool groups and the Manchester groups were particularly popular. So I suppose to attract those, it would have been easier for, I don't know, the Searchers and the Hollies and groups like that to get to the studio rather than coming all the way down to London.
I see what you're saying. It was like a central point where they could all go to. And I do remember the very first one of Top of the Pops. It was Dusty Springfield. She was my idol then, singing... is it I Don't Know What to Do With Myself or something like that?
I think it would have been I Only Want to Be With You.
I Only Want to Be With You, that's it. Yeah. And I do remember that. What was this tell us a little bit about the miming on the show. As I remember reading in the newspaper around 65, 66, it was to be banned, the miming. What was this all about?
That was one of the main reasons it moved to London.
Oh, right.
The Musicians Union were against the miming. And a similar thing happened to Ready, Steady, Go and other programmes like that. And it would have been mid-1966.
Oh, right.
From then on. For a while, everyone had to perform, had to sing and play live, and often it was a shambles. But then, after a few weeks, they thought this isn't working, and they compromised. They just wanted live vocals, and you could use pre-recorded backing track, and that's the way it stayed for a long time after that.
Right. When did the BBC suddenly wake up and think we ought to be storing these programmes for historical historical use?
Well, it wasn't until 1976, I suppose. By then, it was. I guess by then they started seeing, the Beatles were historically important, and Jimi Hendrix and the early Rolling Stones and Elvis. It wasn't just a passing fad, but it took them 20 years from the. From Elvis appearing to decide that it wasn't a passing fad is beyond me. So.
Oh, right. On compiling this book, Peter, you've spoken with many, many artists that appeared on the show. What would you say was your biggest scoop?
Well, you just played World Without Love by Peter and Gordon, and Peter Asher. Peter Asher was one of them. I know he's still very busy these days, and he was a very big scoop. And Gordon, unfortunately, died 2009, I believe.
Oh yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else. Bill Oddie, he was a nice scoop. Susie Quattro, Anita Harris. I don't think she does a lot these days. Many interviews. I believe she's 79 or 80.
Well,
that was quite a scoop. Yeah. So yeah.
And there was one memory that made me laugh in the book. I don't know whether you remember it because it's such a big book. It was about Ralph Ellis of the Swinging Blue Jeans, who recalls a scuffle with Keith Richards in the BBC canteen. Can you tell us what this was about? What was it over? What was the scuffle over?
Got the book in front of me. It was the very first episodes, actually. And I'll read you a bit of what he said. Ralph Ellis of the Swinging Blue Jeans. Ralph Ellis actually left. He was quite a scoop because he actually left the Swinging Blue Jeans in early 1966 to become a civil servant. Wow. So he hasn't been a musician for a very long time, Ralph Ellis. But I managed to get his contact details. Yeah. Anyway, Ralph Ellis. I was guitarist vocalist with the Swinging Blue Jeans on this show. We appeared on 5 occasions that year. The Rolling Stones opened the show with I Want to Be Your Man. We did Hippie Hippie Shake. At the end of the broadcast, we went to the canteen with the Stones, and other artists and fans joined us for autographs. Keith Richards asked to borrow my pen after I'd finished, and I gladly loaned it to him. When he had finished, I asked for it back, and he said, "I haven't got your effing pen." I said, "You have, it's in your top pocket." He still refused to give it back to me. So I made a move to recover it. This involved us in a bit of a scuffle, and we finished up on the floor. Mick Jagger separated us and gave the pen back to me. We performed many times with the Stones later and became good friends. So he said it was just kid gloves, handbags at dawn sort of thing. And they laughed about it afterwards.
You could imagine that. I could,
Exactly, yeah.
From seeing them on the telly.
I can imagine Mick Jagger being a diplomat even then, though. He is a very diplomatic person.
Peter, when did the programme change from the top 20 to the top 30? Any ideas?
Offhand, late 60s. I can't remember the year.
Okay.
But no. 69, I believe. Yeah.
And I'm going to stop here and I'm going to bring John in. John's on the panel here with us. John.
Hi, Peter. I can actually see your face. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Fine.
And congratulations on very creative use of your spare time and all the things you've done. I'd just be interested. Tell us what it was like interviewing the 3 surviving members of the Bonzo Dog Doodah band altogether.
Well, one thing I must clarify, most of this was actually done via email rather than actually interviewing. It was fantastic. Like you say, there's only 3 of them left, and a contact, a friend of all of them, said, right, I'll pass on your message, and I said I'd love to get a comment from all of them, and I did, and they're all very different, and it reflects their personalities, very well, I think. That was the question Jacqui asked earlier. That's probably one of the biggest scoops, the 3 surviving, and another scoop as well. Mike Pender and Frank Allen of the Searchers. I mean, they went their separate ways in 1986 and haven't really spoken since then. But getting comments from both of them was very nice.
And you made contact with Dee Dee Wilde from Pan's People as well, didn't you?
Yeah, she actually did the foreword to another book of mine on glam rock called Look What They Done a couple of years ago. Yes, and very helpful. There's only 2 surviving, for people who don't know, there's only 2 surviving original Pan's People members. And that's Dee Dee Wilde and Babs Lord, who later become Babs Powell, married Robert Powell. But
we forget how far it goes back, don't we? It goes back a long, long way. You must have an extensive library, Peter.
I have.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you very much. It's great to hear your reminiscences.
Thank you.
Right, we mentioned the lovely ladies who danced on the show, Peter. There was Go-Jo's, Pan's People, Legs and Co. And what really made me laugh was the part in the book where the girls, I'm not sure which group of girls, asked for the floor to be cleared while they danced, as the costumes were so tiny they didn't want to be ogled by the public.
That's correct. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if you notice, anyone who looks at the book, they'll see from a lot of episodes, the only surviving clips are of Pan's People and none of the performers. Well, a lot of that, believe it or not, a few years back, there was some sort of long-lost VHS tapes recorded off-air from a vicar. And someone looked at these, and it seemed like every week for about 2 years, all he recorded was Pan's People from Top of the Pops. And these days, they're called the Vicar's tapes. So they say, collectors look at these rare Pan's People and say, oh, that's from the Vicar's tapes.
Promise you it wasn't me, Jacqui.
Okay, that's what we were laughing at. John is the Reverend John guest. Peter, sure. Yeah. Right, I'll bring Pam in here.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Pam.
When you were chatting with the artists that appeared on the show, is it with a fondness that they remember their experience on it? How do they remember their time performing?
Pretty much so. Murray Head, you've heard of Murray Head?
Yes.
A singer. He didn't remember it fondly at all, but I did include his reminiscences. In particular, his run-ins with the Top of the Pops Orchestra. They'd play sloppily or they'd play in the wrong key according to Murray Head. Yeah, he didn't like that at all. But mostly, fondly. I decided from the onset I wanted the book to be a celebration. I mean, there's been so many things that have happened with certain presenters and performers, and I didn't want that. And one artist, I won't mention his name, but he was very, very helpful, and he said, I've got some stories for you about so-and-so, an ex-late DJ. And I said, to be honest, it's not the type of book I want to write. I want it to be a celebration. And he understood. But that's what I aimed for. And hopefully that's what I achieved. So.
Yes, it's a lovely format, the book. I was looking at it with Jacqui, and it's a nice, easy-to-read format. It's user-friendly, I would say. And that really comes over. And so going back on something Jacqui said, obviously there were nearly 900 mini biographies, I think, that you did on sort of everybody that's sung or danced or, been heard over the years. What was the most surprising thing you found out, though?
I'm not sure. Well, I was surprised how many are no longer with us.
Yes.
That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, but and that was sad. Yeah, it's so often. There can't be many groups from the 60s or even 70s now where all members still survive
in their entirety.
Alive. It's very sad. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that sort of brings it home, doesn't it? When you said just now about sort of the surviving members of Pan's People, well, I remember them when I was a kid. They weren't that much older than me, really. Yeah. And to think that there's only Dee Dee and Babs that are surviving now, it's an eye-opener. But I'm glad you've done it as a celebration, because, as you say, there have been the darker times with some of the presenters and some of the acts, and it's nice that it's a celebration of Top of the Pops. So thank you.
No, it was lovely. Right, going back again to one of the memories told by various artists, and another one I picked out was the memory of Alan Whitehead from the group Marmalade, Scottish group. Do you remember that one? And the song when they were going on to Top of the Pops to sing Obla Dee, Obla Da, and they wanted to do it in kilts. So I'll leave you to finish the story.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me, actually, yeah. To clarify, Alan Whitehead was the drummer, and he was the only southerner in the group. All the others were Scottish. But anyway, Alan Whitehead. The funniest story is when Marmalade got to number one with Oh Bloody Oh Bloody.
Yeah.
The group promised to wear kilts if that ever happened. Well, when we got to the top and were booked for Top of the Pops, the group all wore kilts, except for me, being English, I wore a Grenadier Guards outfit.
Right.
Anyway, when we did the dress rehearsal at 4 p.m. in kilts, the group thought it'd be funny to do a bit of a can-can. Bear in mind, as true Scots, they wore nothing under the kilts. The producer was horrified as Top of the Pops went out live to 20 million people. So thinking of nothing of it, when our turn came later, ladies and gentlemen, this week's number one, the Marmalade and the Bloody Bloody. As we walked through the studio, ready to perform the song, I noticed on every camera a little sticker which said, "When Marmalade are performing, shoot from the waist up only." It's a very good story. Yeah.
No, that was that really did make me laugh, along with lots of other stories in there. So, any idea, Peter, what year did the BBC release Top of the Pops albums with the scantily clad ladies on the covers? But I don't think the scantily clad ladies were anything to do with the music, were they? It was, I suppose, to entice people to buy them. Were they vinyls?
Actually, the Top of the Pops albums had absolutely nothing to do with the Top of the Pops show.
Oh, didn't they? Oh, I didn't realise that.
Well, apparently the company who put out these cover versions of Top of the Pops, and like you say, the scantily clad girls on the covers, they found out that the words Top of the Pops wasn't copyrighted.
Oh.
And they put out the albums. The BBC was against them, but so they have absolutely nothing to do with the TV show. But
Okay.
But these interestingly, these Top of the Pops albums, I mean, there was anonymous session musicians, but at the time it included people like Elton John, pre-fame, and Tina Charles, pre-fame. So when people listen to them now, they think, oh, yeah. And I've heard some of them. You've got Elton John singing things like Yellow River, and he sings it very well as well. And Tina Charles is singing some of these. And so they're worth hearing, although they was anonymous cover versions at the time. So.
Oh, okay. No, that's very interesting, because I went through my record selection this morning and I found quite a lot of vinyls with scantily clad ladies on that I'd bought ages and ages ago, but they were not Top of the Pops. One was an EMI. Then I did find one though that was, I think it was Pickwick's, was it, that used to do them?
They did things like Hot Hits, I believe. Yeah, I can't remember all the others. Yeah. There were several. Yeah, I think Pickwick. Yeah, Hallmark, perhaps. I can't remember the labels, to be honest with you.
Peter, going back to the stories you have scattered throughout this book from artists that have been on Top of the Pops. Another one that made me laugh, I don't know whether you remember, from Philip Wright of Paper Lace. Do you want to tell us what the story was?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Philip Wright was and still is the drummer and lead vocalist of Paper Lace. Yeah, he was very helpful. Anyway, he gave me a few stories, but this one I particularly like. Philip Wright. I often wish I'd been in possession of a mobile phone in those days. Of course, they were unheard of then, but the camera would have been useful, especially one particular time when between rehearsals I decided to go to the BBC canteen for a meal. As I'm sure you know, many productions were produced at Wood Lane, Crown Court and Doctor Who, just to name a couple. And on this occasion, I found myself at a table. Having collected my meal at the canter, I sat down in my glam stage gear, and with me at the same table were John Pertwee in his Doctor Who velvet smoking jacket, a Cyberman with his head removed for comfort, and a green jelly-like creature from the same episode of the popular series. Trying to explain the situation to others later would have been much easier if I had photographic evidence.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been great? Look who I had dinner with, look who's coming to dinner. That would have been, yeah. Peter, when the shows are repeated on other TV channels, are you aware if the DJ that hosted that particular show has to give his consent?
I believe so, yeah. I'm not so much into the 80s and 90s, but I believe one person who didn't give his consent, I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong here, was Mike Smith, the late Mike Smith. Oh, right. And he didn't give permission, but he's since passed away, but they've respected his decision. And and certainly 25 years ago, there was a channel called UK Gold, which repeated a load of them. And at the time, Noel Edmonds didn't give his permission either, so none of the Noel Edmonds editions.
Oh, that's a shame, because
I do believe they do need permission.
Yeah, they were quite good. Now, Steve, who's working our desk today, he has a question for you that he doesn't know if you can answer. I think he's taking you into the 80s. I'm not sure. Steve.
Hello, Peter. Good afternoon. It's great to have you with us. Fantastic book. It's really thick. It's a very much in detail about the Top of the Pops in through its ages. Jacqui, and you mentioned about they used to sing live through the early part of the 60s. And I remember there, like you said in the book, they started to do the miming over the recorded soundtrack of them. But I think it was, I can't remember if it's like the 80s or the late mid-90s when a singer, I can't remember the singer, actually stood on stage and could not hear the auto cue coming from the control centre of her backing tune, and she'd just stand there and they were still playing her song and she was singing, but you couldn't see her mouth actually moving. And after that they said, right, okay, we've got to sing live now. Is that right?
Yeah, I do know that. That was All About Eve with the song Martha's Harbour.
That's it.
And that's it, yeah, it's a classic. It's not quite my era, but a classic clip, yeah. There's been a lot of problems like that over the years. And some, on purposely, took the mickey out of it, kind of thing. There was like Tracy Ullman was singing to a hairbrush and people like that, so
that's it.
It was obvious they was miming, so they thought, why not, just take the mickey out of it. So.
Yeah, I mean, even when they were playing the instruments, you can tell they were miming because certain drum beats weren't actually hitting the drums at the right time, and the singing would be slightly out of sync, when on certain artists when they're sung. So
I remember Noddy Holder saying, and not to me directly, unfortunately, but he preferred it when he had a backing track, but that is sang live. Yeah. Because then he could go out for a few beers. He didn't have to concentrate to play, but he didn't have to concentrate on miming to the vocal either. He could just go in there and belt it out and just strum anyhow, kind of thing. So,
incredible, isn't it? Oh, I tell you what, the Top of the Pops tell a story throughout the years. I tell you what, you can write a documentary of Top of the Pops and the things that used to go on behind the scenes. Brilliant, Peter. Fantastic book. I can't believe how thick it is. It must have taken you ages to write it, and especially the research of it. It's incredible. Well done, Peter. Yeah, terrific.
Right, I think this book will appeal to any fan of Top of the Pops, whatever age group, which I should imagine accounts for over half the population. Peter, thank you for coming on the programme today. It's been wonderful chatting about your book and looking back in time to the 60s and 70s. Last but not least, Peter, where can we purchase the book?
Amazon. Can I say Amazon?
Yeah, you sure can.
Yeah, Amazon. I believe the normal price is about $19.95, but they put it on offer at the moment. It's about £15 or £16. So I'm not sure the exact price, but yeah. And it's And it's a lot of pages. They've got 650 odd pages. So, excellent value.
Yeah, Steve's eyes has just lit up when you said it's been reduced. He's going to go. Yeah. Anyway, I'll say cheerio, Peter, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Peter. Bye. Thank you.